Okay, so next we're going to be hearing from Kesha Mykhailov, who's going to be talking to us about how to teach an LLM to review code like a senior engineer. Okay, big round of applause for Kesha.
Test, test, test. You can hear me, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, perfect. So I'm in fact working in infrastructure group. So you might be asking, like, why the hell am I here? Is there anyone working on infrastructure? Any platform engineers? Any infrastructure folks? No one? One? Great, awesome. That's all we need. Perfect. That's more than enough. So let me run you through the agenda. By the way, I have 150 slides and 30 minutes. So it's about 13 seconds per slide, so I have to be quick. So I'll try to convince you first that we know a little bit about how to build an agent. And then I'll try to showcase how we actually don't know how to build an agent. And then we talk about the problem with the pull requests. Then we obviously failed first multiple times, and then we luckily recovered. So I'm going to tell you all about that. And there will be a secret bonus track material at the end. So make sure you stick to the very end. So it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster. So by now, you probably should know that we are building an AI agent. In fact, we claim that it's #1 AI agent for all your customer service. And it's called Finn. And ultimately what it is, it's a chatbot. So end user comes in, asks the question, hey, I lost my debit card and I need a replacement. And Finn is like, hey, Alex, no worries, I got you. And here we go. Finn figured out what to do. Seems like the user is happy. So in this specific case, conversation seems like to be resolved, as in we got to the point where Finn was able to answer that question. And so turns out this resolution rate, so the number of conversations that are being resolved by the agent, is the most important effectiveness metric of your agent. And now I think we need to turn off the recording, turn off your phones, highly confidential material. This is our resolution rate over the last 2.5 years. So we're very proud that every month, on average, we grow by approximately 1% over the last 2.5 years. Strictly confidential, don't make any photos, please. And then, so what is the way to do it? Well, there's no any secret sauce. It's just like hundreds and hundreds of A/B tests. In fact, probably at this point in time in production, we have about 50 different A/B tests running. And every A/B test gives you maybe like a little percentage, like decimal point of a percentage of increase in that resolution rate. You need to have hundreds and hundreds of those all the time to sustain that dramatic growth of resolution rate. We also build our own custom models. In fact, Ramil wrote a nice post about how we built a world-class re-ranker for Finn, which outperforms the industry standard Cohere. So that's another way how we try to get that resolution rate up. We build in our own custom models. But like, just trying to do a good job is probably not enough. What if we put our business on the line, right? What if we say, what if we only charge you if Finn was in fact able to resolve a conversation? Certainly that would be fun, right? And that's what we do. So we have this pricing where you only pay if Finn was able to answer the question. Great. Turns out building agent like this is really hard. We have hundreds and hundreds of people working over those 2.5 years, maybe close to 3 years by now. But it is possible. We are building a successful business. We're going to be close to 100. Well, we are close to 100 million in the ARR, and we're probably going to hit that milestone next year. This is actually really confidential, so don't mention that. And of course, I'm being cheeky. There's nothing confidential. We are so proud about this achievement. We put this on our website because no one does this. And that's why we are truly the #1 agent. But this story is not about Finn, right? This story about something else. It's about AI agents for developers, for you. And you might ask, well, what about it, right? What's the story? So early in 2025, as Pat mentioned, it's a year of slop. We had our own year of slop, which turned out to be the year of agents, internal agents for you, for developers. Everyone got excited. Everyone built an agent to automate a certain part of the developer workflow. Everyone were doing this, and we have this Cambrian explosion of artificial intelligence. We had agents everywhere. But the harsh truth is that they were vibe coded and vibe tested at best. So none of that worked. And quickly, by late 2025, all of those agents became fossils. They don't exist anymore, mostly. They were no good. So we organized an effort, Team 2X, with the mission to increase R&D efficiency, with the asterisks, with AI. Of course, with AI, everything with AI. And the first problem we try to tackle is pull request reviews. And you might ask yourself, what's the story? So, well, it turns out in the age of AI, pull requests sometimes look like this. Raise your hand if you saw a pull request like this over the last year. Yeah, 1, 2. Don't be shy. We all saw those, like hundreds of lines of code, right? What's the problem with this pull request? I mean, it's great, right? Well, the problem is now someone has to review this, right? Someone has to go through all of those thousands and thousands of lines and figure out, like, does it make sense? Should we merge it? Should we like split it up? Maybe, who knows? And the first folks who kind of faced this problem were our front-end experts. And now kind of we get into the front-end bit. I promise we're going to get there. So our front-end experts felt this pain in a worst way possible. So you can see the total number of pull request review comments that they were leaving on the pull requests. This was all good, and then suddenly, somewhere around early 2025 and towards the third quarter, they suddenly started to post a lot more comments. They were drowning in work, just trying to catch up with all those pull requests and like point out some useful feedback for the engineers. So why was it the problem? Why there was so much work for them? Well, it turns out we were migrating from Ember.js to React.js. How many of you survived a major front-end framework migration? Raise your hand. How many of you survived a major front-end migration twice? Raise your hand. 3 times? No? Anyone? Wow, we have some old-timers here. Well done. Like, you need some therapy. This is a no joke. So, so the work that they were doing, Aaron and Pat and other folks, they were leaving all of those endless comments like, maybe don't use effect. You really don't need the use effect or use callback, whatever. Are you sure you need that thing? Maybe you can do this in some other way. So they were spending a lot of their personal time, a lot of their work time, leaving those comments and just drowning at work. And surely we had an agent, right? We must have an agent for that. Like, we had this Cambrian explosion of AI agents. Surely we can solve this problem, right? And of course we did. Of course we had an agent. We had an agent that you can ask the agent, hey, Claude, review this pull request. And it gives you this nice review. I love it, right? It's beautiful. So it starts with a love letter. It tells you, oh my God, your code is perfect. It's so strong. And the architecture and the state of derivation pattern and the comprehensive brother test, like, it's amazing. And it goes on. But I have a few concerns. And some of those concerns are valid, but you can hardly see them through this massive blob of text with some unrelated stuff. It's all React, it's all plausible, but is it really applicable? Who knows? And it keeps going. So it gives you more things like code quality analysis and export change and story change, whatever, and it keeps on, and no one has time to read this. So quickly, folks, just tune this out. And even if there's any grain of kind of wisdom in that blob of text, you'll never get to it, because no one has time to read all of that. And I guess one of the major reasons behind this is that, well, React it's not a framework really, like, it's more of a library. So Pat and Aaron and other front-end folks, they spend a lot of time building that stack, making those decisions. How exactly are we going to use React in our own code base, right? They spent a lot of thinking, optimized everything, created a beautiful setup, but LLM just doesn't know about any of that. LLM does not know your React stack. So even if there's anything useful in there, it's just drowning in the kind of endless sea of irrelevant, totally plausible, and maybe even valid React comments, but they're just not applicable to your specific stack. And that's a real problem. But like, we really wanted to help those folks. We really want to save their time and do some more useful things. So what are the traits of those comments that they were leaving, right? What made them like great in comparison with those AI slop code reviews by Claude? They were short. They were attached to the code. They had some specific code suggestions. There were no nice to haves or no nitpicks, but more importantly, they knew the stack, because they built that stack. They created that set of libraries that we were using, and hence they knew what they were talking about, basically. So this is what we wanted. So we embarked on a challenge to make Claude Code review code as a senior engineer. And now it's probably the time to take a look at that Cambrian agent that we had that was producing this. Like, what was the architecture? It's very simple. We had a GitHub action. When it runs, it spins up Claude Code, it gives all the context on the PR, and then it spits out this massive comment with the review. And when you look at it, there's nothing wrong with the architecture. It's totally fine. The main problem is there's no React guidance. Who's going to tell LLM what's exactly has to be used as a guidance, as a context for that code review, which is specific to our React stack? Where's this golden nugget? Or like, where are those golden nuggets of information? How do we source it? Where do we find it? Well, it turns out they were hiding in plain sight. All of those comments, all of the time that Pat and Aaron and other folks spent methodically reviewing those comments and trying to educate engineers on like what the React stack is and how it's supposed to be used. All of those comments could be used to source the guidance and teach LLM what our React stack is. And that's what we did. We got lucky, actually. Someone enabled Snowflake integration years ago. Turns out we had all the comments in Snowflake. So we pulled all of those comments, combined them in a short, succinct documents for every React topic. I had to chase Pat, chase Aaron, like go through all of those like summarized documents together. And eventually we created this React skill, which is just a markdown file with a bunch of more files for every topic on React components and data loading and hook form usage and router and all the other things that I don't really understand that you're supposed to know. So all of these things were in the skill, and they were supposed to tell LLM what really React stack is for us. So our goal stayed the same. We wanted those short comments attached to the code with code suggestions, no nice to have, no nitpicks, but more importantly, we kind of hope that LLM will follow the guidance, right? Because we told LLM what the React stack is. And the worst case scenario would be if we created more noise. Like our goal was to maintain high ratio of signal to noise. Like we wanted something like this, not something like that. We didn't want to increase the noise. And when we deployed, oh my gosh. So this is what happened when we deployed. Like Claude just went berserk and started leaving dozens and dozens of comments on PRs, and folks were just drowning in noise. So we wanted to avoid the noise, and in fact, ironically, we created even more noise. So we had to quickly roll that back. So it became obvious, it became visceral that you need some tests. Well, they call devals in AI age, whatever. These are just tests. You need some sort of way to validate that your agent works in the correct way. So we built mock PR reviews. It's really hard to test something that produces artifacts like GitHub comments. So we ended up having a Docker container where we pull the branch with a pull request. Then we run Cloud Code with a prompt to review that request, a pull request with the same guidance that React scale, everything kicks in. But at the very last moment, when Cloud is about to post an inline comment to GitHub, we give it a mock MCP server that intercepts that request. And instead of posting to GitHub, just creates a markdown file with a comment. So we are able to eyeball the comments and figure out what the hell has happened without producing any artifacts. So, and that's what we did. We were able to like mock review a given pull request, validate the comments that were created by Claude, and figure out what kind of changes we need to make in the guidance. But it also became apparent quickly that you not only need tests, you need batch tests, you need batch evaluations. Otherwise, you can't really be confident that wherever you have is solid and consistent. So we're running now thousands of those PRs, mock reviews for the 1,000 PRs, and we produce some comments, and we sometimes eyeball them, draw some aggregated insights out of it. And that's where the prompt engineering finally kicked in. Now that we had batch evals, we could do certain things. For example, we can tweak the prompt and instruct LLM, hey, you're not allowed to post comment unless it cites the specific section of the skill. And it took a lot of turns to come up with something that actually really strangled LLM to really adhere to the guidance, the one that we sourced from the comments that were left by front-end experts. And we were actually able to drive down the number of comments significantly, probably maybe halved the number of comments, to the point that it was only posting the things that were actually specific violations of the guidance that was encoded in the skill. So that was great. And then the other problem was that the comments were still quite verbose, even though they were like split onto multiple comments, they were still quite big. So we had to iterate on the prompt more and come up with this comment brevity requirement. Must be 2-3 sentences maximum. And we had to give it an output, like you have to stick to this specific form. This is the way it should look like, the suggestion, the explanation, the rationale, and nothing else. And again, we were able to kind of strangle the model, strangle Cloud Code and LLM behind it to drive down the length, the average length of the inline comment down to some reasonable amount of characters. And this is actually the prompt, the system prompt of the code review bot. So this is not the guidance, it's just the prompt that instructs Cloud Code how to review the PR using the guidance. So there's a lot of iterations to get this right. And batch evals enabled us to iterate on it in a reliable way and get to the point that we were happy. But then we thought, okay, maybe we can do the next step. How do we improve the quality of those comments, right? Up until now, we were talking about the number of comments, the length of the comment. Those are kind of mechanical qualities of the comments, but what about quality? So we built a judge that assesses those pull request review comments produced by the code review bot and grades them to like using several rubrics like correctness, severity, brevity, actionability, adherence to guidance, and a few more. And then we hooked that into our batch evaluations, and now we were able to produce scores for severity or for certain other categories. And the first thing you should ask yourself, if you build an LLM judge, like, is my judge maybe a little bit too optimistic? So I have this test that I sometimes run. I strip all of that system prompt guidance for the code review, and I just tell it, review the code as a senior engineer. And these are the scores. So this is on the scale from 1 to 10. And you can see the scores are quite low. So I kind of convinced myself, okay, judge is probably okay. It's not too optimistic, because if you let it loose, if you let the code review bot loose, then the quality of those comments is really bad. So that amount of effort that we put into the system prompt actually worth it, because without that system prompt, it's just horrible. So this was good. And let me show you judge in practice on one little example. So I was trying to integrate this into the other code base, not front-end, just billing code base, Ruby on Rails. So we added a skill, few files, sourced it, curated with experts, all good. And then when we ran those batch evaluations on a few hundred of PRs, we noticed that it started to produce some low severity comments. Like 70% of all of those PR review comments were coming from one single file. Wait a minute, not just one single file, one single word. I'll make it bigger for you. See that? Always use verifying doubles. So if you replace always use with use, you literally change one single word in the skill guidance for the code review bot. And then when we reran the tests, we were able to eliminate all comments from 28 PRs. So the severity of the comments went up, and it was statistically significant, and blah, 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 but it was really good. So we were able to use the judge to iterate on the guidance itself and increase the quality of the comments that the code review bot was producing. It's time to quote an established, famous AI engineer. If you don't test your agent on a large data set, well, you probably don't have an agent. And in fact, we knew this all along, right? Because we knew that the only way to build Fin, to get to that 67% in resolution rate, you have to sweat all of those A/B tests and fight for every little fraction, every decimal point of the percentage to get there. There's no other way. You need like a large data set or an A/B test, ideally, but you can't really do an A/B test with PRs. You don't have enough data to do that, but at least we had some batch evaluations to control the quality and improve the prompts and the guidance. So great, we had those comments that were grounded in the guidance, we had the judge, but you might ask, what about the humans, right? Where are the humans in this loop? In fact, as Pat mentioned, it's not an engineering problem, it's a socio-technical problem. It's both socio and technical. So where are the humans in here? So for the humans, we added this little thing at the bottom. Please rate this comment with thumbs up or thumb down to help us improve the quality. And you can click here. And like, it wasn't really obvious like what to do. Like a lot of folks were confused, like, where do I click? Where the button is? But ultimately, we kind of educated everyone. This is where you click. So if you like it, put the thumbs up. If you don't like it, put thumbs down. And folks were doing this. And this was our positive reaction rate. So as you can see, we started in the low kind of teens, maybe 14, 15, and then we were able to kind of climb our way up, and it was a really grinding process of iterating on the guidance and talking to Pat and Aaron. And sometimes folks were like fighting the comments, and they were saying like, hey, I know better than this. Like, this is no good. AI bot doesn't know the thing. I know I should be using use effect here. And I had to go to, hey, Pat, hey, Aaron, could you please write me a message to convince that person that you, as an expert, wrote this guidance, and this is, in fact, true. So there's a lot of, like, socio problem in here as well. But eventually, we managed to climb up to some reasonable numbers. By the way, there's a center here. You can't trust this data point. There's not enough signal here. So we were not that good in January or late December. But humans are unreliable, too. Big surprise, right? Not just LLMs. Sometimes they don't rate the comments. They don't leave us any signal at all. So how do we know whether the comment was good or bad? Well, the one indirect signal is that maybe they haven't rated the comment, but if they applied the feedback, probably they found it useful. So we introduced this concept of soft resolutions, which kind of aches to the thing that we use in Fin, where we also track soft resolutions. So if someone got a comment, and then we look at the diff of the pull request as if it was merged eventually in the end, and that feedback was in fact applied, then we consider, okay, this was probably a soft resolution. They probably found that comment helpful. And we got to the point that we finally crossed that psychological 50% threshold. And this is important. This is not just random. There is some research that says that if the number of comments, by the way, I spoke to a third-party vendor and they told me they found the research. So I don't know what the research is, but I trust them that they did their own research on that. Basically, if the number of pull request comments that are useful is below 50%, then not only those comments will be ignored, but all the other comments will be ignored too. So if you have more noise than the signal, then the signal doesn't really matter because everything is just treated as noise. I guess it's fair. So we were able to kind of climb our way into this over 50%. But there's a big elephant in the room right there. Can you see it? No. Well, it's here. It's virtual. Why wouldn't Claude write the code correctly in the first place, right? Why would we let it write all of that AI slop and then run this code review bot and leave the comments and then folks apply the comments? Like, why would we do all of that? It's a fair question. So we had to strangle the model a little bit more with a programmatic hook to inject some determinism into it and say, hey, if at any point in time you're reading a file from the teammate app, which is our React app, if at any point in time you're reading it or about to write to it, invoke that skill, the React skill, and use the guidance from it. So we injected this determinism in the context. And that's where we are. So the quick recap, we have the skill, we have the data on soft resolutions and some human signal. We have the comments, the way we want them, the length is right, and they're grounded in the React skill with all the curated human feedback. And we have the judge. I don't know why there's no thing, but there's a judge in there. So we have the judge. Oh, there it is. Okay, there she is. The main learning outcome, that building AI agent is really hard. You can't just like put something in the markdown file and hope that it's going to work. It's not going to work. Like you need all of that to get to a certain point. And even the thing that you're aiming for, it's still going to be this. It's not going to be like 100%. We're still fighting. It's a constant struggle. Like almost every week, Pat and Aaron and all the other front-end experts, they have to review the guidance, review the negative comments, adjust, reshuffle something, change, adapt. So it's a constant struggle to even maintain at that level. But I guess we did manage to make Claude review PRs as a senior engineer, or a little bit more as a senior engineer. But we are ambitious. Remember, the mission is increase R&D efficiency with AI. It's missing in there on the slide. What if we think big? What if we can teach Claude Code, not only review code, but also behave as a senior engineer, right? And just a quick tangent, why I'm talking a lot about Claude Code. It's they have a foundational model, Anthropic. They have Opus, best in class, arguably. They innovate in fast, but more importantly, they are building platform, and platform is the most important part here. So why platform? What is platform? Well, platform is ability to ship your own plugin through the marketplace, so you can distribute your new skills and prompts quickly. You have hooks to inject determinism. You have skills to encode your context as a prompt and make Claude to discover that skill and use it at the right time, which is a problem. So that's why you need hooks. But also it has telemetry and a bunch of other things. And when they come together, that's the platform that you can build on top. You can basically tailor it to your own organization needs. And let me demonstrate the platform on a quick example. That's where the bonus track material comes into play. PR descriptions. In the age of AI, PR descriptions are horrible. Raise your hand if you were given a PR description like this for review. Yeah? Ah, there you go. I'm with you. See this guy over there? It's like oddly familiar. Okay, well, I built a judge and graded 170,000 PR descriptions, going back to 5 years ago, from 2021. And as you can see, well, it's a bit kind of variance in there, but towards the third quarter of 2025, there was a big dip, like statistically significant. You can't ignore this. It was really happening. Like they really got much worse. And I had a hypothesis. Is this AI? Could this be AI? Probably AI. And I was right. In fact, it was AI. So turns out all of those assistants and agents, they leave this helpful kind of comment at the end of the pull description. Pull request created or opened by Augment Code, generated by Cursor, generated with Claude Code. They're very proud and they want to tell you like, I did it. So if you like parse all of the PR descriptions and break it down, like the quality of PR description based on who created it, you can clearly see that all of those agents were below humans. So humans were writing kind of much better PR descriptions. But what I didn't anticipate, and was a surprise for me, that even quality of human pull request descriptions went down. We were probably rushing to generate all of that code, and we didn't have time to communicate PR descriptions in a proper way. But what is the problem, right? Because I forgot to tell you this. This PR description is horrible because it doesn't tell you the intent behind the change. It tells you, oh, we added this attribute, we call in this method, and we added this thing and that thing. It's like a human retelling of the changes, but it doesn't really tell you what is the problem are we solving here? Why are we doing all of that? I don't need the test plan. Just tell me, what the hell are you trying to achieve, right? None of that is captured. It's completely lost. And you just get this useless thing that you could have seen in the code itself. And it probably even outdated because you made a few more commits, you changed something, it didn't update the description, so that is probably outdated anyway. Great, so the first question you should be asking me, oh, you built a judge, well, is it really good? And I decided to validate this myself. Is it biased towards me, right? I built a judge, probably I should be in the top, right? I was hoping like maybe top 5, maybe top 10 at the minimum. I was 42nd, you can't make this shit up, like 42nd. I was really upset, but I guess it's kind of fair. I was lazy. I was letting LLM to create PR descriptions for me, and they were horrible. And of course, I kind of, LLM judge rated me way down in the list. I'm embarrassed. I want to do better. The next thing I wanted to check, is it biased towards AI agents? Is it? Well, remember that signature that they leave helpfully at the end, proudly? So if you get rid of that signature, so I got rid of that signature and regraded all of those 160,000 PRs without the signatures. And turns out it really helps. I was using Opus model, so it helps Claude Code a little bit. So if you strip the signature, the score goes down. But if you strip the signature for the other agent, the scores go up. So it turns out there is a little bit of a bias towards your own agent. So of course, Opus model from Anthropic is biased towards Claude Code. The next thing I want, but the impact of this wasn't significant. It's like it was small enough to don't think about it. The next question asked, are the results even legit at all? And if you look at the top 20, all of those engineers who got in the top of the list, they were in fact tenured, reliable engineers that I loved working with. So all of that makes sense. But the top person was Eugene, and Eugene is like 11 years in the company. He's part of the Ruby on Rails core team. He's extremely senior and tenured, and he has like years of experience of creating great PR descriptions. And what am I talking about? Look at that beard. Like, do I have to say anything more than that? Like, look at that beard. Of course, he's the king of PR description. He was producing the highest quality PR descriptions with the perfectly captured intent and the why behind the change. So I think my judge is okay. I think it's fine. So now what? Like you might ask, like, so what? Yeah, you have the judge, you graded those PR descriptions. What's the solution? Well, I built a skill. I call it create PR skill. And I just put some guidance in the prompt and the skill MD file. And I told Claude, you should never fabricate intent. You should never list the files, never narrate code changes. You never speculate on the risks. But what you should do when you create a PR, you should look for the intent in the session history. And if it's not there, and most of the time it's not there, ask for the intent. And I was really scared doing this because now when I ship this, Claude will start asking the questions. And this is a little bit kind of shady business. You want your AI assistant to be proactive and solve everything for you. But when it starts asking the questions, like, what the hell is going on? Anyhow, I shipped it. And within a month, we've got almost 10K, well, 8K, 9K, whatever, number of pull requests created with that skill. And I know that they were created with that skill because I have this specific signature. Like in small italic text, it's generated with Claude Code, which is slightly different to that signature that I had before. And of course, the numbers went up, unsurprisingly. PRs that were created with the skill were graded much higher in the PR quality. Because Claude started asking folks for the intent. Why are we making this change? What's the story? And folks were answering, and Claude was capturing that in the PR description. And then I got some feedback. Who is behind that skill? Ben posted, big shout to whoever is behind the PR creation Claude skill. Remember, I didn't tell anyone. I just shipped it through the plugin, the magic of the platform. We were Claude were producing utter slop. Of course it was utter slop, because it doesn't know how to capture the intent. It just helpfully generates token after token and puts the description in there, just retelling the changes. And then Sasha wrote, I actually like that skill asks me to explain the problem. So the folks like this, and I'm like, finally, great. I don't have to worry about this. They like when it asks the question because they like the outcome. So this was great. And we were successful to make AI agent, Claude Code in this case, to behave a little bit like a senior engineer. But there was a problem, adoption. Only fewer or less than 20% of PRs were created with that skill. Like, what's the story? Why is that the case? So it turns out I was kind of fighting the system prompt. There's a system prompt in Claude Code that tells it how to create a PR. So you should be using this format, and you have to put the test plan. So everything that I hated about the PR descriptions was actually encoded in the system prompt. So I was basically fighting it with the skill to make sure that Claude does the right thing. So one of my colleagues, Americo, he came up with this idea: let's build a hook to deterministic detect when Claude is trying to do the wrong thing and inject the skill in the context to make it do the right thing. And again, thanks to the magic of the platform, we shipped the hook, and the adoption went up, but it's still not there. It's still less than 80%. Well, building an AI agent is hard. I'm keep repeating myself. It is hard. So what is the future of frontend? And I might even ask, what's the future of backend, for that matter, right? Maybe the future is the end. What do I mean by that? If we think about the job of us software engineers, we were writing code, we were creating PRs, trying to do our best to communicate the intent, and maybe we had to fix some tests on CI, and maybe we got some feedback, and we had to address the comments and fix the tests again, and deploy to production, investigate the issues, and fix the issues, and write the code, and the cycle continues. And suddenly, we got this gift from heavens. Code generation is free, right? We have LLMs. You can generate all the code you could possibly wish to have. But what about everything else? Like, is the hope that we automate everything else with an agent? All of those little bits, PR creation, PR review, all of the other things related to getting things shipped safely into production, making them work. Can we automate this with agents? Maybe, but building an agent is hard. And I know it's hard. You know it's hard. Everyone knows it's hard, because that's our business on the line, right? We only charge you for the resolution, and we still got only to 67%, right? How come? Well, because it's hard. And the code reviews, and we were doing this for months and iterating and writing the feedback and collecting all of the comments and bothering Pat and Aaron to help out, and we still only got to low 80%, or we didn't even get to 80% on code reviews on soft resolution rate. And what about the create PR skill adoption? It's the simplest skill you can possibly think of, right? It just tells Claude how to create a PR description, how to write a description that captures intent and the problem behind the change. And we still less than 80% at adoption. Well, because it's hard. So if there's any lessons learned from this whole experience, is that you need to source and curate guidance. That's the ground stake. There's nothing more important than that. You absolutely have to do that, and you need humans. You need folks like Pat, like Aaron, like all the front experts that we have to constantly work on curating and making sure that guidance is up to date. You need batch evaluations to control the quality. Remember that one single word? Always use, change to use, and we managed to drive down the number of comments. Even a single word can completely derail the success of your AI agent. And you need a platform to make your agent behave. Otherwise, it will produce this, will produce that, and you'll get a lot more of those things. Unless you have a platform to ship some deterministic hooks, inject things in the right place at the right time in the context. And for that, you need a platform to quickly roll those things up and iterate and see the telemetry. Because the end goal is not that circle. None of that circle actually mattered. That's not part of our job. This is our job. Ship the product. And I guess my job and the Team2X job is to empower folks like Daria, like Pat, to actually focus on what matters. None of those, writing code, grading PR descriptions, all of that, none of that matters. What matters is to ship the product. And maybe the future is of front-end, back-end, of software engineering is to at least try and automate all of those unimportant bits with some AI agents, even though it's really hard. But it is possible, right? We have business on the line, in fact. So if we can automate all of those bits, and let you folks ship the product, because you are a better place than me. I can write code. I'm useless. I can't think product. You designers, product owners, front-end experts, you are the best place to ship the product, but we just need to lift you up from this level of abstraction somewhere higher so that you can just focus on what matters. So maybe that's what the future of front-end is. Thank you. Do we have time for questions? Maybe one? Oh, okay. Better make it like a good one.
Any questions? Okay, sorry.
Do you find that in the context of different teams or different repos, when you're guiding the agent on pull request reviews, that you need to differentiate the guidance?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have to separate the system prompt that tells Claude how to make a code review using a certain skill with the guidance, right? So that is generic. That is repo agnostic. So that system prompt is applicable to any repository. But then the guidance itself, like the React guidance, that's where you have to like invest and build it specifically for the repository you're working with. So we have a skill for our Ruby on Rails monolith. We have a bunch of skills for our front-end monolith. We have a bunch of skills for billing repository. So all of those skills are completely different because they capture that valuable context that only you know as an expert in that repository. But the system prompt is generic because the whole job of that prompt is just to strangle the model to produce short comments that are grounded in the guidance. But the guidance itself is like an input to that prompt. Thanks. Good question.
Cool. I think that's it. Yeah.
Hit me up later. I'll try to answer more questions. Thanks.